Class is in session. We're hitting the books on Pub Sports Radio, Monday, December the 6th. Ian Cameron, Conor Mac with you. I'm a little bit hungover for a little bit of a drunken experience last night, enjoying and indulging, if you will, with the Ticats CFL East final victory in Toronto. So a little hurting today, yours truly, on this Monday edition of the show. The voice is hurting, a little raspy, a little sore. That's all right. We're going to power through it here and take you through the Monday Hitting the Books show alongside Conor Mac. And hey, this is an exciting show because we've got bowl games. The bowl season has arrived, and we're going to split the entire bowl betting slate into two shows. We're going to do the first half of the bowl games today, and we're going to do the second half of the bowl games next Monday here on the Hitting the Books show. And we're going to do, of course, our special bonanza on the December 18th, Saturday morning, with the entire kickoff crew, me, Connor, Big Ragu, and DJ Big Boss talking bowl games as well. So we're going to have lots of bowl coverage here on Pub Sports Radio the next few weeks, and looking forward to it. We thought maybe we were going to have a little bit of chaos with the playoff, and it was certainly looking that way with Oklahoma State losing to Baylor on a phenomenal goal line stand at the end of that game for the Baylor Bears to get the victory. And we thought maybe the door would be open for your Ohio States and your Notre Dames maybe to slide in, but they still needed some help, and they needed a Cincinnati loss. They needed an Alabama loss, and they needed a Michigan loss. And unfortunately, they didn't get any of those things. So it pretty much stayed status quo that Alabama, Michigan, Georgia, and Cincinnati were going to be the four playoff teams, and in that order. And that's exactly how it transpired. So the playoffs, of course, will be part of next Monday's show, but we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to all these bowl games as well. This is always the time of year, Connor, where bowl game handicapping is a different beast from your week-to-week regular season betting in college football. You need to find motivation. You need to see how much of the fans are going to turn out for their teams. You got to look at, opt-outs, who's going to play, because you're going to see several scenarios, and we saw them last year, where players just dropped like flies and didn't play in the bowl game. Look at Florida in their game against Oklahoma, and everybody jumped on Oklahoma because they saw everybody was out for Florida pretty much, and it was a rout in favor of the Sooners. So you're going to see situations like that. Motivation's part of it. Some coaches are great in bowl games, others are not. Remember, Doc Holliday for years was an automatic bet on with Marshall in bowl games, and then Rod Carey for years. That's why I'm upset Rod Carey got fired. Probably would have, and Temple wasn't even in a bowl game this year, but Rod Carey's been a good bet against coach in years past in bowl games. So coaching, motivation, not just the matchups, but coaching, motivation, and who's actually going to play really matters a lot when you're capping these games, Connor. Isn't that right?
Yeah, especially year in to year out. It just, we come back to it every year, but it's all things you just need to remember, like you mentioned. And even last year was even crazier with COVID, and it seems every year more and more, there's more guys that want to go to the NFL that don't want to play in these games. The coaches don't want to deal with it. And then you got probably half or maybe a third that do. They want to keep playing. And that's why you've got to find the motivation in some of these. But let's talk about some of this past weekend. How wild were some of these games, these no-shows? You just talked about Oklahoma State, San Diego State. I know they had some COVID problems. A bunch of guys were out. But Georgia, no show. Just a crazy championship Saturday for teams to just completely the worst time all year, where these teams haven't had a blemish or hadn't had a bad game, kind of laid an egg on Saturday. So crazy shit.
Yeah, it was definitely a crazy. And then there were some expected results. Obviously, Georgia, still can't get over the Alabama hump, and they're eventually going to have to, probably if they're going to win the national championship this year, but they couldn't do it again when everything was set up pretty well for them. The one things that were not surprising were Cincinnati rolling and certainly Michigan rolling. I figured that Iowa team would have a tough time moving.
That was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They horrible if you had the full game under, though. That was horrible.
Oh, yeah. Michigan just kept pouring it on there at the end. Yeah. That was bad. Yeah, and the over in the Pittsburgh, the Wake Forest just quit, I thought. I can't believe that game didn't get over. So that was pretty bad as well. And Hartman, tough for Hartman there. A lot of picks real quick.
Yeah, I almost went with the full game over as my Saturday best bet on the show with you, me, and Big Ragu and DJ Big Boss. I went with the Pitt team total over instead, and thank goodness I did. Pittsburgh did, of course, all the scoring in that game. One of the coolest plays of the weekend. We'll get to the games in just a sec, but it's been I posted it on Twitter. Kenny Pickett's fake slide I thought that was phenomenal. I know some people have a problem with it. You're not supposed to do that. That's, dirty tactics. That's not being good sportsmanship, that you fake a slide and then you keep on running and you fool the defense. I say you do what you can to win. You do what you can to make plays. And if that means, faking a slide and fooling the defense on the other side, I'm okay with that. That's fine. I got no problem with what he did there. I thought that was a great play. It's something you really never see. A quarterback faking a slide after a run, and then he just keeps on going. That was some kind of play there with Kenny Pickett there Saturday night.
It was.
All right, we'll get to the bowl games in just a sec. We're going to tie up some loose ends first, though, to begin the show. We've got a couple games that are non-bowl games to get to first, starting in the NFL. Thursday night, we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota 3-point home favorites, 45.5 the total. So the first thing I definitely am aware of when looking at this game toward Thursday night is it's definitely a Vikings spot. Okay, this is desperate times for them. 5-7. They really are starting to fall out of it, but they're not completely out of the playoff picture in the NFC. However, if they want to stay in it, you got to win this game. You're off back-to-back losses to San Francisco and then just a horrible loss to the Detroit Lions, the previously winless Detroit Lions, who get their first win at the expense of the Minnesota Vikings, 29-27 yesterday. And I said, don't lay frickin' 7 points with Minnesota on the road. Just don't do it. And that's exactly, hopefully nobody did because you ended up paying the price for it in that game against the Lions. So it's a bounce back spot. They're at home. And Pittsburgh's coming off, a physical, gutted out, back and forth, really grueling game, very physical game like it always is between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh with the 20-19 win in that game. Credit the Steelers, gutting it out, coming back from an early deficit, and they found their way to just a critical victory for them to keep themselves afloat, 6-5-1. And with Ben Roethlisberger announcing that this is probably his last year, I'm sure it will be his last year, is that now like an incentive now for Pittsburgh to win one for the Gipper, make a playoff push? Let's go out strong for Ben in his last year. Is there that team onus to do that? You wonder, because that sure is what it looked like to me against Baltimore. Things could have went off the tracks for them. They rallied back, and I think there's a sense with the Steeler team right now, Connor, that they want to really go out strong this season, with Ben probably packing it in and calling it a career after this year. And then, as someone in our chat aptly mentioned, this is a banged-up football team, Minnesota, both sides of the ball. Adam Thielen's ankle injury, very uncertain that he'll play in this game. Dalvin Cook has a torn labrum and dislocated shoulder, and he's still going to be out for a period of time. Patrick Peterson's out on the defense. Daniil Hunter is on IR. Eric Kendricks, the linebacker, bicep injury day-to-day. Anthony Barr, hamstring injury. It's a banged-up both sides of the football. So it's really tough. I think it's a clear Minnesota spot, but I don't like the form, and I don't like the injury report either. So don't really have a strong opinion early in the week. Connor, what do you think? Vikings Steelers.
Yeah, the classic Thursday night football for me that I hate so much. To me, you just mentioned all those injuries, the offense, but the defense is taking it the worst for me with the Vikings. Obviously, the Steeler defense played better, but I think both these defenses aren't good. The problem is Thursday night, we see these unders, kind of hit. And that's why this total's at 45, because the way these two teams are playing, I want to take the over, but I don't know if that's the play here. And you're right, this is a Viking spot here at home. The problem is, do you want to lay the 3 with them? I thought that was my favorite play of the day yesterday, was the Steelers, especially getting 4.5 at home. Ravens can't beat anybody by number. They were overvalued. And it's the classic, Steelers had given up 40 points the week before, but they're still, 5-6 or whatever they were, 5-5. So I thought it was perfect for them, and they ended up winning. Or, they were going to lose by 1. I would have took the win anyways, the cover. So difficult one here for me. Yeah, the Cook, it hurts. Thielen, I mean, that's really bad. So this one's difficult for me. I guess it's kind of the ultimate. If you trust the Vikings, especially if, you have to get under a field goal, you take them. If I got more than 3, you could take the Steelers. But it's my ultimate Thursday night. I want nothing to do with this game kind of deal here.
Yeah, for me, I would want to make a case for Minnesota here in this spot. Pittsburgh travel short, actually not travel. It's in Pittsburgh, but it's in Minnesota rather.
It's in Minnesota,
short week. Short week. It is in Minnesota. A short week. It's a situation where you look at it and you see, you know what? big physical game against Baltimore, short week with travel. That's not a bet on spot by any stretch of the imagination
Exactly.
for Pittsburgh. But Minnesota's struggling. They've got tons of injuries. I want to see the injury report clear up for Thursday. If it does, I'm going to try to make a case for the Vikings. This just has the feel, Connor, of after losing to San Francisco and then the embarrassment of losing to Detroit Sunday. It's got that feel of circle the wagons time. Minnesota shows up here. I just don't. Maybe they're not good enough, even if they do show up. But I think they show up here.
I think they do too. That problem is the defense. That was my problem. Why I wasn't full on wild about the Lions yesterday, because they can't score, and Swift was out, and they ended up doing it. That Vikings defense is not very good. You talking on the show with Jimmy that I had the under the 49ers. I thought their defense might show up, and the 49ers defense was playing better. That game went over in the third quarter. They've been nothing but overs 4 of their last 5. Even that Charger game probably should have got over 27-20 that they played. One more touchdown would have got it over. So I know it's Thursday. I love taking unders on Thursday Night Football. I think this, and Pittsburgh Steelers 45, you think under too. That's why it's so difficult for me. I want the over, but something tells me this game could stay under. Oh, shout out to Cheshire Cat, $5 dono, man. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
He's beyond loyal to not only the shows on this channel, but just my shows in general everywhere. I mean, just incredible that he's tuning in all the time. Cheshire Cat, one of my favorites. Thank you very much. We appreciate you tuning in for sure here to Hitting the Books and for the dono as well. Before we get to the Bulls, we do have the annual Navy-Army game this Saturday. We'll talk about that now. MetLife Stadium, New York. We've got Army 7.5-point favorites in this game, 36 the total. Actually, I'm seeing it drop to 35.5 now as we speak. But you know what it is? You know what the old saying is? Death taxes, and you know what? Well, death taxes and bet the under in Army versus Navy. I mean, that seems to be the annual tradition. And look, 17-4 to the under in the last 21 head-to-head meetings with these two service academies, 10 straight unders dating back to 2011. And you look at many of these, 17-13, 34-7, 17-10. But here's the problem, Conor Mac. When this 10-0 to the under streak started for Army versus Navy, we were getting totals in the 50s, 55, 55.5, 49.5, 55.5, 50, 46.5, 44.5, 38.5, 41.5, 36. This is the lowest total of the bunch. So I get it wanting to bet the under. I could only bet the under. It's going to be two teams that are just going to run the football with the triple option. Tick, 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 tick goes the clock. We know how it works in games like this, but my goodness, I mean, you're just not getting a whole lot of wiggle room here at 35.5, 35. I will not be betting the game. Army is the better team. They're rightful favorites here. But in a game like this, I've seen so many times, Connor, where the better team in this matchup doesn't always cover. Even though we've got Army definitely is the much better team, had the much better season, but don't sell Navy short. This is their Super Bowl, even though they've had a down season, even though they've only won 3 games. So it's a pass for me with just a small lean to the under, but even the under I don't love because it's just, a devalued number, 35.5. That's not a whole lot of wiggle room for you to get there. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, well, the odds makers got to set this here. I mean, like you said, 10 years in a row, they just got to keep bringing this low where they think they can get action both ways. And this is about as low as you can get. I mean, you start getting under 35. That is wild here, but this can't stay under. I don't know. This is too low. I don't want to mess with the total. I know they're going to run it. Army's been not just an under team all year. They've had a lot of totals in the 50s and mid 50s all year long. And they've gone over some of those. This team's gone up and down. Their defense isn't, it's good, but it's not great. Remember the Wake Forest 70-56 game, but they've had a bunch of others in the 30s, tons of games that have gone over. So I think Navy will be able to move it. I lean Navy a little bit here, just because this is their Super Bowl. I don't think they're that bad. I think this is just going to be a grinded out game. So I lean them catching over the touchdown here. I think it's going to be a physical game like it always is. So if you give me 7 and a hook, I'll take it with Navy.
Yeah, and they have a little bit of a passing game to them this year, Army, on offense, no question. It doesn't matter who it's been at quarterback either, Anderson or Tyler Tyler, it doesn't matter. They've had guys that have come in there at quarterback and throw the football a little bit for Army this year, and we've certainly seen that. So that's why now look, last year I think Army had a pretty good offense last year, and it ended up 15-0 for Army, and they shut them out. in that game. So it still very well could under, and under's the only play for me from a total standpoint. But I'm just saying it's a very low total, and there is a little bit more explosiveness in the Army attack this year. So that's the concern. So I think the value might be the other way, but the series history is just so freaking strong to the under. There's no way I'm betting an over here, even with those Army potential to be a little explosive.
Yeah, it seems like they just want to play to that too. Like they want to just keep the game tight, like, and just battle each other and just run it down each other's throat and just keep this game within a touchdown and, and an under, just where it's, real tight. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. It'll be fun. It's always a fun watch. It is. It's Navy versus Army. You pay your respect to these two service academies for what they do for us, serving the country and, helping us live our lives and freedoms on a daily basis, giving us them.
Yeah.
It's worth it. You're doing your homage as a patriot, if you will, to watch the Navy versus Army game every year. All right, let's get into bowl season. We've got 2 bowls to get it going on Friday, December the 17th. The Bahamas Bowl. And man, we've had some wild games. I still remember Central Michigan, Western Kentucky years ago in the Bahamas Bowl. Man, was that game nuts from a betting standpoint. Toledo and Middle Tennessee State here, noon Eastern, Friday, December 17. Toledo 9-point favorites, 53.5 the total in this game. Interesting matchup here between these two. Toledo's coming into this bowl game on a house of fire right now. They've played their best football down the stretch. 4-1 straight up in ATS their last 5 games, only lost to Eastern Michigan, but they beat up Western Michigan, crushed Bowling Green, beat up Ohio, crushed Akron. We'll see how they fare here against Middle Tennessee. Another thing that I'm always going to look at, Connor, in bowl games, and something that I factor into the handicap, I missed mentioning this early during the opening part of the show, strength of schedule. You really want to kind of look at what teams have done this year, who they've played. How have they done against bowl teams? That's part of the process for me. I don't give 2 shits how you do against Akron if you're Toledo. How have you done against bowl teams that are good enough to be in a bowl game this year? That's what I look at more than anything else. And when you look at Toledo, they haven't played a ton of bowl teams on their schedule this year, to be quite honest with you. I mean, it's just not many at all. You look at it, Akron's not in a bowl game. Ohio, is not in a bowl game this year. I mean, there's all kinds of teams right now where you wonder who have they played of caliber. They played Notre Dame. They did cover in that one, and you give them credit for it, but just not a whole bunch of opponents here that were all that strong here for the Toledo Rockets. Now, they are playing their best football again, like I said, coming into this game, but definitely in terms of the schedule, a little bit concerned. Middle Tennessee, it's not, Conference USA has not been as strong as it's been in years past. And you could even say, their schedule at times has looked a little weaker, but, Old Dominion made a bowl game this year, Western Kentucky, Liberty, Marshall, UTSA. There are teams on this resume here for the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders in terms of their schedule, where they are playing teams that were able to make it to a bowl game. So right now in this point spread range here, we'll see how the quarterback situation is too for Middle Tennessee. Keep in mind they had quarterback injuries. And of course, Hockman transferred out. Chase Cunningham was injured. Are we going to see Cunningham able to play in this bowl game for the Blue Raiders? If he is able to play, the initial lean for me might be toward taking the 9.5 here with Middle Tennessee in this game. And as always, you're going to want to read between the lines when you're looking at games like this, Connor, because you're talking about Middle Tennessee and you're talking about Toledo, Ohio. When they get a chance to go to the Bahamas in December, is it a business trip? Do they want to win a football game? Or are you just there for the holiday and the parties and the sunshine and the beach, that kind of thing? You want to really try to get a gauge closer to this game taking place. Who's there to win a football game? Who's there just there to have fun and have a good time and get drunk and party? You're going to find that. You're going to try to find that out too. But and again, this show is about initial leans, initial gut reaction, your feel just from a gut reaction standpoint, leans. I'm not really locking in bowl bets left and right here the first couple days without more information at our disposal. But I'll say this right now, definite lean for me to Middle Tennessee based on the opening line. What do you think here, Connor?
That was my lean too. You talked about it. Both these teams haven't played really anybody. They kind of beat who they were supposed to. They lost. Like you talked about, Middle Tennessee, they win these games against FIU, FAU, Southern Miss, Connecticut. They kind of win the games they're supposed to, and they lose the games, they're supposed to. Va Tech, UTSA. They had one good win against Marshall, I thought, this season, but Marshall's so up and down. Hey, I can't even figure that team out. So from week to week, year to year, betting on them. You talked about it, though. What's the thing? All I know is these two teams, I want to get the hell out of Toledo, Ohio, and goddamn Middle Tennessee to go to the Bahamas. So at least they'll be excited to get out of there in the cold winter. I got to take the points. I just haven't been. I know Toledo's played their best football kind of at the end of the year. It's just I don't know if I even going to get to the window in this game. But almost 10 points is intriguing with Middle Tennessee State. But it seems like they're going to lose by just over 10-17. This could just be another loss. We're expected to lose right around 10 to 17 points. I could see. So it's just not one that I'm huge on here early.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at the strength of schedule numbers here for this year. We're going to see it. Toledo, let me see. They're ranked 99th in FBS for strength of schedule, 99th. And Middle Tennessee, let me see where they're at. They're actually 108. So, it is actually a strength of schedule advantage for Toledo. But again, when you look at Toledo, how did they fare? Like you look at their 3-1, everyone's talking about how they were so great down the stretch. The Western Michigan win was a good win, and we'll give them credit for that. That was a solid win. But the others were, just teams that aren't going bowling, that didn't have particularly good seasons. When you look at it, facing Ohio, facing Bowling Green, facing Akron, not good at all, those teams. So you have to keep that in mind. I mean, their one quality of victory down the stretch was against Western Michigan, you can say. So that's what concerns me here about Toledo. They really have, outside of the WMU win, been feasting on the weak, and we'll see if that shows up here in this game.
And who knows if this it doesn't. These things don't always translate, but 4 straight overs for Toledo to end the year. They were almost in the 50s every week and giving up around 20. So I'd lean over just off initial lean here in this game.
Yeah, and it looks like it's definitely Chase Cunningham's not coming back, so it looks like it's still going to be. And they had to split the quarterback in the last game for Middle Tennessee State. They played both of their top 2 quarterbacks, Nick Battiato and Mike DiLiello, for them. They both played in that game against in their last game of the season, Middle Tennessee State against Florida Atlantic. So, and they did win that game and they did cover, so they made it work. They won outright. They had a rough first half offensively. And then after that, they played a lot better, but give them credit for that. And you know what? Bowl practices, sometimes when you got 2 inexperienced quarterbacks, the bowl practices are going to help you out and have you better, more ready to execute at a higher level offensively after that. So fascinating opening bowl game. The other bowl game on Friday, we move to that one now, the Cure Bowl. Hopefully this bowl game isn't the cure for insomnia, because hopefully it's an exciting game here. We've got Coastal Carolina and Northern Illinois. Coastal Carolina 10-point favorites here, 62.5 the total in this game. Northern Illinois with the MAC championship victory over Kent State, just terrific on Saturday. Both sides of the football, dominant defensively. You got to give their defense a whole lot of credit for showing up the way they did. They just never allowed Dustin Crum and that Golden Flashes offense to get on track throughout that MAC championship game. So well done by this Northern Illinois team. And now we'll see them here, 10-point dogs against Coastal Carolina. You got to think for Coastal, with the season they had last year, this year not quite as much. How fired up are they for the bowl game? Northern Illinois getting double digits is usually a point spread role you like the Huskies to be in a point spread role such as this. Now they're going up against an equally explosive offense here. Grayson McCall and the Chanticleers they can throw it well. They run it extremely well. And the Northern Illinois defense has been poor against the run, well, at least until Saturday. And they looked a whole lot better against the run in the victory against Kent State. So can they bring that defense here with them to the Cure Bowl in this game? But early lean here is, Coastal Carolina has not exactly been great laying bigger numbers lately. We've seen it play out that way. Early lean for me, Northern Illinois here. Again, closer to bowl game. We'll see quotes, who's in, who's out, who's fired up for the game, that kind of stuff. You read it with coaches, coordinators, players. You get little tidbits about just a little tip-off, little pieces of little nuggets here and there of whether these players are excited for a game like this. And I think Northern Illinois might be. And I know they're going to a warm weather environment, so it's kind of like, for Northern Illinois, you get to go to Orlando. Are you focused? Or are you there for a good time and a holiday? But if they're focused, this might be a few too many points. What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, this is one that, this is an information I want to be looking at the whole way. But right initially, like we're looking here today, I think you got to take the points. I've been on this Northern Illinois team. I kind of was on them when a lot of people liked Kent State, just this Saturday. I didn't think their defense would play that well. They played unreal. It was kind of like the defense they would play when they'd bend, but they wouldn't break, but they played unreal all game long. You could tell they were hyped up. I don't know. They got to be hyped for this, though. They're going bowling. They're playing Coastal Carolina, big bad Coastal Carolina. I mean, big for them, for the small, the last few years, they've been really, really good.
For a group of five conference, yeah, one of the better ones. Yep.
Exactly. And over 10 points, I got to lean that way. Lombardi, he looked great in the championship game. He just gets enough done. I think they get enough here. And 5 of 6, the last 6 games, they haven't covered the number, Coastal. And the game they did was Georgia Southern. They won 28-8, and the spread was 16. So this is a team that's just gotten by. They've won by 3, 7, 2, 14. They didn't cover that against Texas State, and then they won by 6 against South Alabama the last game. So I think there could be points here too. This is a high number at 62.5. But yeah, I got to stick with Northern Illinois. I think they can continue the season. If they don't win, I think it's close. I think this is a close ball game.
All right, we move on now to Saturday, December 18, Boca Raton Bowl, Appalachian State and Western Kentucky. We've got App State 2.5 3-point favorites here, 67 the total in this one. Western Kentucky, a disappointing showing for them in the Conference USA Championship game, 49-41 loss to UTSA. The Roadrunners get it done. It was really one of those games where Western Kentucky had trouble defensively against Frank Harris, Sincere McCormick, and the balanced offense that UTSA had in that game. And they paid the price for, I think, 3 or 4 empty possessions they had in a row in the second quarter. And that did them in the Conference USA. And then they got going in the middle of the third. They started to score, and they scored on every drive. And you figured if that game goes to a 5th quarter, they might have come back and won. But unfortunately, they ran out of time. They ran out of racetrack. And it was too little too late, the little rally Western Kentucky had in that game. First thing you look at when it comes to any team playing Western Kentucky, is your pass defense good? And you look at App State, they do have the good numbers in terms of their pass defense. But then you start to look at their schedule and you see where's the great passing game and the great quarterback that they've faced. They haven't seen anybody. Who the hell is the best quarterback they've played? They played Louisiana. Levi Lewis is a nice quarterback, but he's got a balanced offense. It's not pass heavy. Georgia Southern, no passing attack. Troy, a weak passing attack. South Alabama, weak passing attack. Arkansas State, not good. Monroe, not a great passing attack. They played Coastal and they gave up 27. They can throw a bit, but they run it a lot. So even they are not really that bona fide aerial assault type of team. Really, there hasn't been anything like what Western Kentucky brings to the table here for App State's defense. I think Western will move the ball. I think App will move the ball. Western Kentucky, you look at, against the run, they're mediocre, 162 per game, 4.1 yards per carry. And I certainly saw that run defense just get gashed by Sincere McCormick Friday night at UTSA. That could be trouble because the one thing App State has, Conor Mac, very good ground game. And when Chase Bryce has a ground game that's productive to rely on, it opens everything up for the rest of the offense. And they've got 2 good ones in Noel and, of course, Cameron Peoples running the football here for this App State team. So the run defense to me is a little suspect for Western, which I think will allow App State to score. And I know App State's offense ran up against Louisiana and struggled. But again, you talk about Louisiana, much better against the run up front than maybe Western Kentucky is. So I think both of these teams have a pathway to success moving the football. And for that reason, my initial lean here is over the total. You shouldn't see weather issues. You would expect it to be all right in Florida. You're not going to be in cold weather environments with rain or snow or wind, most likely. So definitely I could see both offenses lighting it up here. And the over is definitely a spot that I have circled here for this one. Conor Mac, Boca Raton Bowl.
Yeah, Boca Raton, Boca Nicky Fish Tanks is what I think of. All right, let's get to this one. That Western Kentucky team got gashed running. I think App State will be able to run it on them. I think Western Kentucky will be able to throw it. You talked about UTSA. they did a great job in that second quarter. Those stops they made, they got a couple field goals. They stopped on 4th down. That saved the game for them because then they had that comeback and fell short. I just have it big App State. This is the perfect number, 2.5. They're sucker, like, take App State. They're going to win. Because if I was getting more than 3, I want to look at Western Kentucky because I think this goes back and forth. And I think there is points. I'm with you. Right. At this number at 67, I think it's low enough. It gets over. I had more points, I'd be on Western Kentucky because I don't know if they can win outright, and you're only getting a couple here. But Zappe, he should be able to throw on App State. You talked about it. They hadn't played really any quarterback all year. And I was one of the ones, I loved the Raging Cajuns on Saturday. They came through. I loved them in that dog roll. And I just, every time I see App State, even laying like almost a field goal here, 2.5, I just don't want to take them. I don't know what it is. If they're catching points, I want to be on App State. When they're laying, I don't want them. So I lean Western Kentucky if this goes over 3. And I'm with you. I lean over here a little bit.
All right. We continue along now. Next up here on Saturday, December 18, New Mexico Bowl. UTEP Miners, Fresno State Bulldogs here. A little Conference USA versus Mountain West Bowl action here, the New Mexico Bowl. That's usually what it is. That's the conference affiliation. It's always a CUSA versus Mountain West game, this New Mexico Bowl, every year in Albuquerque. Fresno State, 12.5, 13-point favorites here, 52-53 the total in this game. Just an early impressions, and just, we haven't read quotes yet. We haven't heard what Dana Dimmel has to say. We haven't heard what the players have to say. You got to believe this is a team that's fired up to be in a bowl game, UTEP. It's been some lean years for them. It's been some rough seasons for this program in the last couple of years. You would think this is a team that's really chomping at the bit to be bowl bound and be in a bowl game, any bowl game, to be quite honest with you. I think this is sometimes the lower tier bowl games. You get some teams that are not excited for them. I think UTEP will be. And I would expect them to be wanting to have a good showing here against Fresno State. Fresno State, a very good year overall, 9-3. It includes the big win they had against UCLA. It fell short of the Mountain West Championship game, which was their end goal, but still a pretty good year for them. They have a coaching change situation, and you want to be aware of these. These aren't always bet-on situations, Conor Mac, when a team's going through a coaching change going into the bowl season. Of course, Kalen DeBoer, who, of course, was the head coach of Fresno, is now the head coach with Washington. He took the Huskies job after the season ended. So you're going to have an interim coaching staff. And I remember hearing this from the great Dave Malinsky years ago. And it's such right on the money, a great point to mention here about these coaching change situations in the bowl games. These interim coaches and these coordinators that are on the staff of the head coach that's leaving for the other program, and I don't think DeBoer is going to be coaching in this bowl game, they're not concerned about prepping their team for the bowl game. They're concerned about their own neck, their own, future, their own jobs. They're sending out resumes to other teams, So the chaos with the head coach departing for another program before the bowl game usually negatively impacts the team in terms of the rest of the coaching staff. The focus isn't necessarily on, wow, let's game plan for UTEP here. Let's get this Fresno team ready for the bowl game. No, I want to know where the hell my next job is going to be, because whoever they hire here at Fresno as the next head coach, they're probably not keeping me on the staff. So that's why these are not normally situations I love betting on, and they're definitely not situations I love normally betting on when you're almost a 2-touchdown favorite, like Fresno State is here with a UTEP team that's fired up. The initial lean for me, definitely UTEP. You look at the pass defense for them, the numbers aren't bad. 192 passing yards per game allowed. That's key when you're facing, obviously, a pass-heavy team like Jake Haener and the Fresno State offense is. Now, you could, bicker about they haven't faced a lot of great offenses this year. The UTSA one they faced, and, of course, they gave up 44 in that game. But, they didn't do that bad of a job in terms of passing in that game. They were a little bit solid against the passing attack. They were gashed against the run, but Fresno prefers to pass more than run, even though they do have a good running back in Ronnie Rivers. But situationally, there's no doubt my lean right now is UTEP getting the double digits. I think this is just a team that is very happy to be in any bowl game after some down years and the season they've had. And Fresno with the coaching change, DeBoer departing, a lot of chaos with the coaching staff going into this bowl game. Those are not typically situations I like betting on at bowl time. What do you think, Conor Mac, New Mexico Bowl?
Yeah, this is the first kind of wait and see, I think, game you need to wait on everything, whether the players, who's going to play for Fresno, especially on the Fresno side, the coaches, all that good stuff. One thing I liked UTEP, Ian, I bet a lot of them with you in some of these games, like Old Dominion, when they were covering, when they stepped up, like you talked about, the UTSA, UAB, the last loss, they lost by 20, 17 or 20. And I think Fresno's about that better than them. So right around this 2 touchdowns, it's tough. I lean with them. I wanted a little bit more points. But I like UTEP. You got to be thinking they got to be hungry here. I like these teams that haven't been here in a long time. They're playing a bowl game. Fresno, what's this to them? I mean, I don't know. Is Hainer even going to play? And if he does, I mean,
Think he's good at
so
Connor, because I was reading some stuff that he's left. He's bolted right with the coach. He's not coming back to Fresno, and he may not play even in this bowl game. And if that's the case, then maybe you better bet UTEP sooner rather than later, because that line's going to go down if Hainer's not playing. You better believe that.
I don't think he plays. I don't know why he does. So I'm just saying that right now. That's just my initial what I think too. So yeah, I mean the points here with UTEP is my initial lean. This is just a wait though a little bit to get some information. And Fresno took care of business in the end. They didn't get to the Mountain West Championship like you said, but good wins in the end. But I don't think there's much to go here with them. So I love the points with UTEP.
Yeah, and apparently Fresno's pissed off. I'm reading the Fresno Bee, which is their local paper there in Fresno, California, and I'm reading some things like the fan base and the student base. They're livid right now. That it's not just that the DeBoer, because I don't think they fault DeBoer, but it's the fact that Jake Hainer's left too. Obviously, DeBoer obviously is probably the guy that brought him in there, and all of a sudden he's gone. You find the coach or the quarterback leaves with the coach a lot of times now. He didn't say he was going to Washington, Jake Haener, which is funny because DeBoer's going to the place where Jake Haener initially came from. Jake Haener was a Washington Husky recruit, and then he transferred to Fresno because he knew he'd be a starter there. So I don't know if he's necessarily going to follow DeBoer back to Washington. There's a chance, or if he's just going to go somewhere else. But now it really looks like he is leaving. He's not going to be with Fresno next year again. He's going to be somewhere with another college team next year, but it won't be Fresno. And when I hear that, and he's announced it already publicly, Haener, that he is leaving, I can't imagine him, Connor, as you just stated, playing in this bowl game.
Yeah,
I can't.
I don't think he's in.
So this could be a thing where you keep an eye on this line. It might, and if you're kind of on the, if you're kind of thinking and reading the tea leaves in this game like we are, you may want to bet this UTEP side sooner rather than later, because I think this line could drop once the Haener news, if he indeed doesn't play in this bowl game. When it becomes official, if it becomes official, you're going to see this number drop for sure. All right, we move on now to the Independence Bowl. UAB, BYU. BYU 7-point favorites here, 54.5 the total in this game. Fascinating matchup here between these two. You look at BYU. What do they want to do on offense? They want to run the football right down your throat. Not that they can't throw it with, not that they can't throw it with Jaron, but definitely a guy that's an offense that definitely you want to be able to run the ball and preferred over the passing game. And Jaron Hall is a good passing quarterback for BYU, but definitely the run game is the key to their success. It's a BYU offense averaging 187 rushing yards per game, 5.1 yards per carry. But UAB's strength is their run defense. So I'm interested to see Jaron Hall. If he has the run taken away from him, he might have to do a little bit in terms of throwing the football. If the likes of Tyler Algier are neutralized by this UAB defense, you're going to have to look down the field more and find some of your receivers. And I find the receiving core for BYU's all right, but it's not where it was last year, in Zach Wilson's final year as BYU quarterback. I thought they had a better receiving core last year than they do this year. So I think there's some things you like here about UAB from a matchup standpoint. I certainly like the point spread range. Being able to take points with UAB as an underdog in the Bill Clark era has never been a bad idea. He's been a guy that with extra time to prepare, you usually like him in these kind of situations as well, in terms of bowl games as well. And look, I'll give UAB a lot of credit for one thing. Their offense, even with a backup quarterback, remember they used number 2 at quarterback most of the year, Hopkins, because their number 1 quarterback, Johnston, was injured all season. He got injured early in the year for UAB and really never came back. But Dylan Hopkins, really showed me a lot at quarterback for this UAB team. He got better as the season progressed. They have a nice balanced offensive attack here. And you've got to wonder if the Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana for BYU is an exciting destination for them. I'm not so sure. We are talking, you see it on the screen. It's the 13th ranked team in the country right now.
Yeah,
And they're
yeah,
getting in
and
the Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's like getting coal in your Christmas stocking on Christmas morning. That's what this seems like to me for BYU being given this bowl game. So my initial lean's UAB. I don't think it's the worst matchup in the world. They're good underdogs. And I don't know if BYU is all that enthused about this as a bowl setting for them. What do you think here, Connor?
yeah, I talk about it a lot. There's certain teams. When I see UAB laying numbers, I never take them. I remember that Rice game where there were 3 touchdown favorites. They lost. But when they're catching over a touchdown here, I look at it pretty heavy. You talked about how good they are in the dog roll. BYU's better, but are they going to be up for this game like you talked about? They're just flat out better. They had the 2 losses there to Boise and to Baylor. But other than that, they took care of business. There's Washington State, Virginia, SC. They beat Utah early, but that was a different Utah team, Arizona State. So I think BYU's a bit better here, but a touchdown, I'm not so sure. I think this game's close. My initial lean, I'm with you here. Give it the 7 if you can get the 7 in the hook. I take it with UAB. I think this is a close game, but BYU to me is just better all around the line. I think and this could be back and forth. One thing BYU's defense was would get leaky at times. There's some teams that stuck around backdoor covered, SC, that game was 35-31. Some of these teams have hung around and games have been a touchdown or less. So that's why I kind of like UAB here as well.
Yeah, they are contractually obligated to be in this bowl game, BYU. Yes, indeed. That is true. I still don't know if they're all that enthused. We'll see. But and UAB catching points, definitely a side I'm very much interested in for this game. You are worried about in the trenches. BYU has a chance to just completely grind you into the turf, on both sides of the ball with their offensive line and their defensive line. That's definitely concerning potentially here. But UAB to me still will be maybe the more enthused team to be in this bowl game. And the matchup, I don't think is that bad for them. Lending Tree Bowl next up, Eastern Michigan and Liberty. We got Liberty, 8.5-point favorites, 57 the total in this game. This is fascinating because, again, like clockwork, Eastern Michigan is an underdog. We have talked about this repeatedly, that this Eastern Michigan side just constantly is a good bet for the most part when they're catching points. I mean, you look at their results this year. Central Michigan, the finale wasn't good in that role, but for the most part, when they were catching points, you could count on this team. The Miami, Ohio win. They beat Western Michigan, a bowl team, as well, outright as underdogs. Toledo beat them outright as underdogs. And the nice thing about Eastern Michigan's schedule is, you look at who they've played. They played Wisconsin, in early season action, which was a good early season test. So that definitely should benefit them here going into this bowl game, at least testing themselves a little bit. When you look at their strength of schedule overall, only 110th. That's the one thing you do get concerned about. But Liberty's only 81st with the strength of schedule. So it's not leaps and bounds a harder schedule here for Liberty in this game. And Liberty finished the season rather poorly. 3 straight losses to Ole Miss, Louisiana, and Army. 3 pretty solid teams. We'll see how they react here. The initial lean for me here is probably Eastern Michigan here with the points. As far as the total goes in this one, 57.5. The one thing that does concern me about Eastern Michigan is it's a very, very good Liberty offense. It's a Liberty offense that, is balanced. And Liberty, had some tough sledding down the stretch offensively. But the one thing Eastern Michigan is not is a phenomenal defense by any stretch. And, when you look at who they've played at times this year, a good UAB defense. They played Ole Miss, Louisiana, a couple of good defenses there. They've been tested against some pretty solid stop units. Eastern Michigan's not quite what some of those other teams are. So this could find its way over the total of 57. I know for Eastern Michigan, total looks a little bit low for them. So we'll lean over and we'll lean to the underdog just a little bit here in this one. CMAC, EMU, Liberty.
Yeah, I think that the total this game could get over between these two teams. I have I got to see what's up with Liberty. This one's a kind of wait and see. Initially, me too, it's the points with Eastern Michigan might be too many here. But those losses, I know they played Ole Miss, Louisiana, and Army, but they weren't really even in those games, especially the Louisiana and Army games. They got beat down. The defense seemed to just falter as the year went on. So will they be up for this game against Eastern Michigan? I'm not so sure. I lean to the side with Eastern Michigan. Like you talked about, not the greatest defense. So I think points will be scored, but will it get over the 57.5? And I just got to keep looking into Liberty if they really want to play this game. And down the stretch, they weren't a team. I wanted nothing to do with them the last 5 or 6 weeks of the year. We were bet on early on, like last year. After they lost a couple there, I just didn't even look their way in these games. So it'll be a difficult one for me here. I lean the points, but certainly.
And by the way, you always want to know, how do certain coaches do in bowl games? Well, Chris Creighton here at Eastern Michigan, 2-point spread covers, 2-0 ATS the last 2 bowl games. 2019 against Georgia Southern, they were 3-point dogs. They lost by 2. And then in the Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit a couple of years ago, which was the last bowl game they were in against Pittsburgh, they were 12-point dogs. They only lost by 4, 34-30.
You got to think they're a little up. Yeah, they'd be up for this game a little more than Liberty. Liberty's kind of like, this is a shitty bowl game for us, and Eastern Michigan should be up for it.
Yeah, and their defense is leaky, Eastern, but they got an offense. They can run the ball. Ben Bryant's a solid quarterback, the Wisconsin transfer. So, and you look at that bowl track record, 2 straight ATS winners for Chris Creighton and Eastern Michigan in the bowl season. So, a guy that's got a track record of cashing tickets in the bowl game. So, yeah, I am leaning toward the Eagles here, getting the points, getting more than a touchdown right now in this game. All right, let's go to L.A., the L.A. Bowl, Oregon State and Utah State. Of course, SoFi Stadium, home of the Rams and Chargers, is where this game will be. Oregon State, 7.5 to 8-point favorites, 64.5, 65 the total in this game. The Mountain West title game winner, of course, Utah State, they just obliterated San Diego State on Saturday. That was extremely impressive. No sweat at all getting the points with Utah State in that game. They got it done with relative ease, and really stunning that the San Diego State defense just basically fell apart. In the second
Everything fell apart in that game. They had zero offense. The defense was pathetic, and the special teams, which was so good, muffed punts and just horrible. That was about as worst a game you could have that I've seen, all by a team that was, that good. I mean, with their record. So, ugly.
That was a shit show from an Aztecs perspective. But I've got concerns about Utah State here a little bit, because I've seen some examples in recent years where, especially the Mountain West title game winner, I thought, wow, you won the Mountain West title, you're going to be excited. Not so much. That might have been the pinnacle of the season for Utah State, winning that game. I've seen the Mountain West title game winner lay an egg, in a couple of these bowl games in recent years. And I'm worried that might happen here against Oregon State. And I think from a motivation standpoint, I think Oregon State is, because this is a team that's building its way back up to being a respectable, solid program again in the Pac-12. They had a solid enough season, in my opinion. I like Jonathan Smith as a head coach, what he's been able to do here with this Oregon State program. This is a team that, has been had some rough years, some down years, but now they get a chance to be in a bowl game, and I think that's going to have them very excited. Remember, last year, they weren't in a bowl game. A couple of years ago, they weren't in a bowl game. 3 years ago, they weren't in a bowl game. It's been a while since Oregon State's gone bowling here. And I worry that Utah State, they put all their eggs into the basket of beating San Diego State. That's the pinnacle of the season was achieved right there on Saturday. Do they have another step-up game in them? I'm not totally banking on that. I think there's a reason Oregon State is laying more than a touchdown here. And I'd be reluctant to go against Oregon State here in this game, because I know this is a team that's excited for their bowl game, a team that hasn't been in many of these in recent years. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, I think the line is spot on here, just about at 7 in the hook. You got to think Oregon State is, and especially coming off of that loss to Oregon. They keep losing to them. They just can't get over. Like, if they would have won that game, would have been huge. And they played way better after the initial 21-0, whatever it was, punched in the mouth. They're the better team here. Yeah, Utah State, I've seen it, like you said, over the years. This Mountain West team plays a pack and just gets here. It used to be in Vegas. They play, and they at Sam Boyd Stadium, and they could lay a huge egg. Utah State. Someone mentioned in the chat, I think the total might be a little bit too high here at almost 65. Of course, they could get there with these offenses. But my initial lead's Oregon State. I think they want to, they're pissed off about that. I think they play well here. But yeah, I think the line's perfect. It makes you think Utah State, that huge win. all that. You take the points with them, but I don't know about in this one. I leaned Oregon State a little bit, and I lean under here just a tad bit.
Yeah, you notice in the early bowl season, I usually gravitate to underdogs. This is one where I'd be interested more in the favorite. It really, and by the way, 49th strength of schedule, 49th most difficult strength of schedule for Oregon State, 95th most difficult strength of schedule for Utah State. So a little bit of a discrepancy there. And yeah, I think, and we've seen Oregon State too, in terms of their ability to, when they face teams that are, on the same level or playing field as them, they can do good. They've found their way to play pretty well in some of those games. You remember, what they did again. Remember, they played a Mountain West team early in the season, September 11th, Hawaii, and beat them pretty good, 45-27. Now, I think Utah State's a little better than Hawaii, but still, I think Oregon State, though, is definitely the way I would lean here early in the bowl season, well prior to this game starting. All right, New Orleans Bowl. We've got Marshall and Louisiana, the Thundering Herd, the Raging Cajuns. We've got the Cajuns 6-point favorites here, 52.5 the total in this one. Marshall, of course, denied playing in the Conference USA Championship game because they got romped in the second half by Western Kentucky a couple of weeks ago. And now they're going to have to face this Louisiana Cajuns defense, which is definitely the strength of the team. Usually Louisiana Cajuns have played in this bowl game quite a bit. They really have. And they're normally excited to be in this game, even though it's so close to home. Sometimes teams like to get away and travel to a different destination. But Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, have played in this R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl multiple times, and they're usually excited to be in it. So I wouldn't anticipate anything different here. I am concerned, though. This is another coaching situation where the coach is gone. Billy Napier, of course, taking the Florida job, won't coach this bowl game. That's not necessarily a bet-on situation for me, but I got to admit, I'm not exactly excited about taking Marshall here in what's essentially a home game here for the Cajuns. So it's a tricky game. I mean, probably if all things were equal and Billy Napier didn't get hired by Florida and he was still here with this program coaching them for this bowl game, I'd really like laying the points. Now, I'm not so sure. I'm going to have to wait and see closer to the bowl season, but I'd still lean to the Cajuns laying the points rather than taking this Marshall team. And I believe, again, look at strength of schedule here with these two teams. Marshall this year, worse strength of schedule than Louisiana. So, and that's saying something because Louisiana's schedule isn't the greatest either. So I'm still leaning Cajuns, but the Billy Napier departure does worry me a bit. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I lean Louisiana as well. I know Napier's gone, but they're right there in their backyard. And if I took Marshall, they'd shit on me. I just can't figure them out. I think they could stay in this game for sure. That's why this spread's tricky here, 5.5, 6. But Louisiana's treated me well all year. All they did after Texas was win every game. They covered for me in the spots they needed to. And I think they can here. I just am not impressed with this Marshall defense. This defense can get gashed at times. I know they can score it. And I think Louisiana's defense is a lot better. So I lean Louisiana. I know you got to lay almost a touchdown here, but at 5.5, 6, I have to be with the Raging Cajuns here.
Yeah, as far as the total goes, I'd lean under when it comes to this total. I'm not sure what you're going to get necessarily from this group in terms of this Marshall offense in this game. Because look, they played some really good defense against App State in that Sun Belt Championship game on Saturday. And yes, they were fired up for that game. They did look all in. I agree with that. I don't argue with that. But Billy Napier was on the sideline for that championship game on Saturday. For this game, for this bowl game. So it's a totally different animal when it's all said and done. I want to get a sense, is the chaos with the coaching. I worry about that a little bit. So again, it's just a lean early in the weeks before this game starts with Louisiana. But let's get a sense of what the coaching situation is going to be and the focus is going to be for Louisiana closer to when this game kicks off on December 18th. All right, let's go to Monday, December 20th. It's the only game on that Monday. It's an afternoon game. It's the Myrtle Beach Bowl, Conway, South Kakalaki, home of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers is where this game is played. Tulsa and Old Dominion. We've got Tulsa, 9.5-point favorites, 51.5 the total. Old Dominion to me is bet on all the way in bowl season. I mean, they got to a bowl game. They're excited to be in one. This is another downtrodden program for the last couple of years that you would think is excited to be in a bowl game. And they had to beat Charlotte, final regular season game to get to a bowl game, and they did make that bowl game as well against Charlotte 56-34. Tulsa played good football down the stretch, 3-1 straight up, 4-0 against the spread. Gave Cincinnati a battle, beat Tulane, beat down Temple, and a very impressive win against SMU, 34-31. The offense finally started to come to life a little bit down the stretch. Davis Brin was a little bit better, but more than anything, the run game started to assert itself as well. One thing that does concern me about Old Dominion, it's still not a great defensive football team by any stretch, but I'm telling you what, Hayden Wolf and the offense has been terrific during this late season surge that got them into a bowl game. And, Tulsa's defense is pretty good. It's been the strength of the team the last couple of years. But I think with this Old Dominion team, the way they're playing, I think they can move the ball a bit. I would actually lean over here, 51.5. Tulsa's offense figured it out a little bit down the stretch. It's a reasonable total. I would lean to the over here. I think I might need maybe a few extra points with Old Dominion, but I still lean to them at plus 9.5. I'm not looking to bet against Old Dominion in this spot. I know for a team that we played their tails off to get into a bowl game. And you don't play that way unless you really want to be in a bowl game and win it. And I think you're going to see that here from Old Dominion. So we lean to the dog, and I lean to the over as well. What do you think, Myrtle Beach Bowl?
Yeah, this Old Dominion team was pathetic. We talked about them being maybe one of the worst teams to start the year. Division I, they lost. Then they were losing close games, whether it was like Buffalo or El Paso, Marshall. Then they started winning and ripped off 5 straight. At the end of the year. I like Tulsa. My problem is gone from 7 to 9.5. I just keep waiting if you like Old Dominion. I don't know how much more it goes, but if it gets over 10, I like Old Dominion here. Every time Tulsa's laying numbers like this, I never want them. Bowl game or not, something about it doesn't excite me. They're a decent football team. I love taking points with Tulsa when they're a dog. Just a difficult one. I don't know if this is enough points for me with Old Dominion, but I don't know if their defense is that good enough. But hot team coming in, they're going to be excited. How pumped up is Tulsa going to be? I'm not so sure. So I need a few more points with Old Dominion, and I'm with you. I think this total might be a little light as well. I lean over, but nothing, official here.
All right, nothing official yet on this one. All right, Tuesday, December 21st, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl in the blue turf of Boise, Wyoming and Kent State. This is one of the bowl games that's been around now for a while. We've got Wyoming 3-point favorites here, 58.5 the total in this one. This is fascinating because, it's Wyoming playing in Boise. Gosh, they play Boise every year just about in the Mountain West Conference. I mean, how excited is Wyoming, to be in this setting, in this venue for a bowl game? I'm not so sure about that. Very classic matchup here. We're a Wyoming defense versus the explosive Kent State offense. That's what's going to be probably the difference maker here in this game. Although Wyoming down the stretch, C-Mac, we started to see some better offense from them, in the last few games of the year. We'll see if that carries over. And Kent's defense is more than a little bit leaky. We know that. 47-54, 47-41. My one little area of concern here for Wyoming is, look, they haven't faced hardly any teams this year that play this, balls to the wall, balanced up-tempo offensive style, extreme tempo that Kent State's going to bring. This is a bit of a different challenge that Craig Bull's defense has faced all year. Have they faced anybody that does up-tempo offense? It doesn't look like that when you look at their schedule here so far this season. So we'll see. Again, I want to see where Kent is in terms of their mindset. I know they lost the MAC championship game. But to me, when you look at the Potato Bowl's always been the Mountain West versus the MAC. The MAC has done pretty decently in recent years against the Mountain West in this bowl game. So this is another one I'm leaning to the dog just a little bit, Kent State. And you got a team that can score like they do, and they're catching points. And I think, maybe the bowl practices should help them get back in rhythm. So even the great offenses sometimes have those days where it doesn't work. And they had one of those days against Northern Illinois on Saturday in the MAC championship game. But I'm definitely leaning to Kent with this current number. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, this one's interesting to me. You talk about Kent State, laid an egg, looked horrible against Northern Illinois. This Wyoming team, I haven't been able to figure out all freaking year. I don't know what team this is. some games low scoring defense, the offense couldn't score. They had these wild 50-43 games. They beat up Ball State, and then at the end of the year they beat up Utah State 44-17, and then they get their ass whipped by Hawaii the next week. I don't know what to think of them. I do not want them laying points at all, but you got to think Kent State's got to be pissed off about how they played in the championship game.
I like
MAC
that.
Championship.
That's a great.
Yeah, I like that too a little bit here.
The team that really laid an egg in their last game, especially a team that had a good season, especially if it's in a conference title game, I find they're definitely bet on teams that want to show something in the bowl game.
Yeah, so I lean Kent State real quick. I just can't trust Wyoming with laying a number right now. Just this year, I just haven't had a feel with them. I don't know what their Jekyll and Hyde team for me. So it'd be Kent State or pass.
All right, we go to the Frisco Bowl. San Diego State Aztecs, UTSA Roadrunners. Meet. Roadrunners, 2.5 point favorites, 49 the total in this game. San Diego State, man, this is a team. This is another one of those situations, though. We just talked about it with Kent State. When a team gets beaten up badly in their conference title game or their last game, they often want to make amends for that. I want to really read some things in the next week or so. Where's the heads of the San Diego State team? Because that was a debacle. That was a flat-out debacle for them against Utah State in that Mountain West Championship game on Saturday. All phases of football basically let them down. Let's see if they're fired up here to bounce back. If they are, I'd be concerned because they are physical, and can UTSA match up with that? But if they're maybe in depression mode and not ready to bounce back, and now they're going to the Frisco Bowl here against UTSA, this could be trouble because UTSA with their balanced offense, and look, it was a balanced offense for Utah State too yesterday, and San Diego State had trouble with them in that game, especially throwing the football. Really, really tough time containing that Aggies passing attack. They had issues, of course, on defense and special teams. And like I said, San Diego State's defense is good. But boy, when they faced better offenses on their schedule this year, Fresno State, Nevada, Utah State, that's when they struggled the most. And that's when you saw this team give up points. I mean, their best defensive games were, New Mexico, Air Force, which is one-dimensional, Hawaii, a weaker offense, UNLV, Boise's offense was erratic all year. I think UTSA can match up pretty decently here. They're going to have a good turnout. Jose was mentioning it to me before the show started. Your UTSA fans are going to show up for this game inside their own state, Frisco, Texas, for this game. We'll see where the heads are at. This is one of those games you want to try to get inside and play Fraser Crane and get inside the heads of these players and for San Diego State. Do they want to really atone for just what was a brutal game for them against Utah State? And even if they do want to atone, though, I think the matchup's all right for UTSA. So my initial lean is still to the Roadrunners here. Conor Mac, Frisco Bowl.
This is a wait and see here for me. If you talked about San Diego State, I got to see all this stuff. They had a bunch of COVID, all this, and a bunch of second stringers in on the offensive line. The tight end was out on the defensive side of the ball. And then everything was just horrible. Well, they had a 2-quarterback system anyways. With the other guy in, he was horrible. The special teams, which was their strength, was horrible, we talked about, and the defense was pathetic as well. So this is tough for me. UTSA is at home. I think you got to lean there, but are they kind of excited that was their big game, beating Western Kentucky? So this one's difficult for me because I got to wait and see if San Diego State comes with their presence, because UTSA wants to run it, and obviously McCormick, that guy's a beast. But San Diego State's pretty good to run defense all year against teams that run the ball. Like you talked about, they got beat by the pass and a few of those teams that could throw it. So UTSA to me isn't that. So interesting game. I lean UTSA a little bit. You're getting under, just 1.5, 2. So I lean that way a little bit.
Bet it, Connor. Bet it.
There he is. Come on, Jose. I knew you'd say that.
They're going to win, Connor. I've already had Mr. Damon Santori, apparently a San Diego guy, coming into my mentions, talking smack. UTSA wins this game again. I'll be in attendance. They're going to win. And why they care about this game? UTSA is still yet to win a bowl game in its history. This is the first one right here.
They want to be history makers. First time ever CUSA champs.
There you go.
And now they want to check the other box. And that's first time ever bowl game winners, bowl champions. So good points there, Jose. Well done. And congrats to you for sticking to your guns with UTSA last Friday in the CUSA championship game. All right, let's go to the Armed Forces Bowl. This is the first bowl, the only bowl game on Wednesday, December 22nd. Missouri, Army. We've got Army, 3.5 point favorites, 59.5 the total in this game. You look at Missouri, obviously just a mediocre season, 6-6 on the year, a terrible defense for the most part all season long. And when you look at the numbers, the first thing that stands out to you, it has to, how can it not? 229 rushing yards and 5.5 yards per carry allowed by the Missouri defense. Do you think that's good facing a triple option team? I don't think so. Not by any stretch of the imagination. So, and look, Army and this Armed Forces Bowl, man, this is one of those bowls that they are usually tied into, playing in the Armed Forces Bowl. And they have sometimes taken advantage of some bad teams, bad defenses, disinterested teams. And they've not only won, they've shellacked some teams, in some of these bowl situations. Put it this way, my initial lean is Army or pass. I don't want Missouri here in this game. I don't want Missouri in this spot with that awful run defense. And in fact, I think I can remember, it wasn't too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just going to go back and check, but I think there was a season just recently that Missouri played. I believe it was an Army or a Navy in a bowl game. Maybe it was someone else, and they didn't fare too well. Maybe it wasn't, but just on theory, their run defense is abysmal. Their defense is bad in general, but especially against the run. And Army, you never have to question motivation with the service academies. If they lose, it's not going to be because they don't care or they're not interested. They show up in games like this. Army laying the points for me. In fact, this is probably going to be a play for me. This is probably going to be a bet for me. What do you think here, Conor Mac?
Yeah, I like Army here. I don't love the hook, but I like Army. I think they'll be able to run it all day. I mean, Missouri, I can't believe they're even in a bowl game, to tell you the truth. This team was horrible. They did have some good wins, but teams kind of on the shits at the end of the year. They beat South Carolina. They did beat Florida. They got beat down by Arkansas 34-17. They did play better. The run defense got a little bit better as the year went on. Early on, it was really, really bad. I mean, Boston College scored 41 on them. Come on. We saw that team at the end of the year. Shit. So, yeah, I lean Army here. I think they can run it on this. I just don't love the hook. I wish it was, at least 3. But, yep, Army here for me.
All right, we got an interesting one here in the Gasparilla Bowl on Thursday, December 23rd. Next up, Central Florida and Florida. We got the Gators 7.5 point favorites, 56.5 the total in this one. Of course, the Billy Napier era is set to begin. Now, do these programs that have the head coach incoming, do they get like a little bump because he's about to show up and take over? I'm not so sure. UCF on the flip side, it's a team that, certainly laying points, they've not been great here. And for Central Florida will be fired up. Make no mistake about it. But is that going to be enough to take the points here with them? Mikey Keene is going to at least get 2 weeks of bowl practices now. He's going to need them because he's got to improve. I mean, throwing the football, it just wasn't crisp for him or very consistent at all for the duration of the season. And I know Florida's defense has been, basically dog shit for the majority of the season, especially in SEC play. But, they did show a little bit better defensively in the rivalry win against Florida State in their final game. And Central Florida's offense, at times struggled to move the ball against the likes of South Florida and struggled to move the ball against Tulane, struggled to move the ball, against Memphis and East Carolina in certain games since Mikey Keene's been the quarterback. And you're talking about a, athleticism level of, recruiting level, just players that are on a different level from a recruiting standpoint. A little bit athleticism, speed advantages for Florida. In the trenches, there's probably an advantage for Florida. Is motivation and the chance to knock off Big Brother in the state for UCF, is that alone enough for them to be able to hang within a single score of this Florida team? That remains to be seen. I think just motivationally, the lean here has definitely got to be UCF, but the matchup, where's Florida at? Do they want to put on a show for Napier incoming as the new head coach? Lots of things to maneuver through here, but I definitely know UCF's going to be sky high for this game. There's no question. Yeah. But can they match up well enough to stay close? I still lean UCF in this game. What do you think, Conor?
That's my lean here as well. I take the points. There's just no way at this Florida team do I want to lay it right now. But you talked about it. What do they want to show for this game? This is one I want to hear a lot about. This is one I want to hear both sides. Who's going to play? Who's not? One thing we talked about it with Keene at quarterback. this team can't get down. I mean, the two bad losses were to Cincinnati 56-21 and to Southern Miss. I remember SMU, that one. Sorry, SMU 55-28. They can't come back. But all these other games, they've been in it. You know, where South Florida, the Memphis, the East Carolina, they might not score a ton, but their defense kind of hung around. I wish I was getting more points, but we're over the touchdown here. So I initial lean here. Yeah, with UCF.
All right, we have Miami, Ohio Redhawks, North Texas, the mean green here. Miami 3.5, 4-point favorites, 53 the total. This is the Frisco Football Classic. This is also in Frisco, the same stadium that the Frisco Bowl with the Aztecs and the Roadrunners is. So 2 bowl games, lucky Frisco this season for the people there in Frisco, Texas. This one should be interesting here. We've got CUSA versus MAC. We have a Miami O team that down the stretch, played pretty solid football overall. They ended the season 4-2 straight up with just a 1-point loss to Kent in overtime and a 2-point loss to Ohio, and an offense that really kicked it into high gear. 33-plus points scored in their last 4 games. And they're very capable on that side of the football with Brett Gabbert, of course, the quarterback here, and, of course, a solid run game led by Kevin Davis. On the flip side, you got North Texas, who are definitely more known for offense than defense. And I'll tell you what, their offense really ripped it up in the last couple of games of the year. Now, they faced UTSA, who rested, starters, weren't too excited about that game against North Texas. But still, for the North Texas offense, it was a really, really solid game there. 440 yards per game, 5.5 yards per play. Definitely better defensive numbers for Miami of O, but you definitely like the way North Texas's offense operated. Rather than a side here in this game, the total's of interest to me. 52.5, pretty reasonable. Miami O played their best offensive football of the year. You're going to get that Seth Luttrell up-tempo offense under North Texas that should have success moving the ball as well. So rather than either side, the over's the way I'm looking toward betting this one. What do you think here, Connor? North Texas, Miami O.
My good old team, my North Texas, got to a bowl game, ripped off 5 straight. They weren't as bad. I was trying to say it to all the haters out there who were ripping on me early on. Some of these losses weren't bad. I lost by Missouri by 13. Liberty by 11. I thought they'd start winning some games. I didn't think they'd win 5 in a row. I like Miami, Ohio. I don't want to lay the 3.5 with them. I take the points with North Texas here. It should be a good game. I think these teams are kind of even. It's kind of a coin flip, and you're going to give me 3 in the hook right now. So I lean North Texas. I think it could get over as well. I'm just I like the side a little bit better here than the total.
All right, the Hawaii Bowl. It's always the Christmas Eve special, and it's the same once again this year. Memphis and Hawaii. Memphis, 3.5-point favorites, 61 the total in this game. I'll say this right now. I'm definitely looking to make a case for Hawaii getting 3.5 points in this one. I don't trust Memphis on the island. This is one of those, they could be there for, party end of the season, especially with a young freshman quarterback, Seth Hennigan. I could see this being just a holiday vacation time for the Memphis Tigers, far away from Memphis and now on the island of Hawaii here. So I'd be worried, not to mention they didn't play great in the last 3 games down the stretch, including the Tulane game. They barely survived 33-28 in that game. Hawaii, they perked up down the stretch. And you look at teams that had to play well to get to a bowl game. Hawaii did that. Last 2 games of the year, outright wins as underdogs against Colorado State and Wyoming. And that offense, which we thought would be very capable this year, didn't always play that way. They came to life down the stretch. Chevin Cordero had 2 of his best games of the year in those 2 wins against the Rams and the Cowboys, which was good to see. Just terrific numbers. And we know this Memphis defense just isn't very good. They've won games largely because of their offense. So this to me is dog and over for me in this Hawaii Bowl. If I'm going to get involved with a little Christmas Eve betting action in this one, it would be Hawaii plus the points over the total for me if I'm betting it. What do you think, Connor? Hawaii Bowl.
Yeah, I'd lean over here in this one. I mean, Hawaii's at home here, so it's just a tough not to want to take them. The whole thing is Cordero. This offense at times, like you talked about the last couple of games, they looked really good. And in spurts they did, and other times they just look lost out there. Obviously, when they're not in Hawaii, they're on the mainland, they usually get beat down anyways. But when they're on that island, I told you, freaky shit happens. They get a lot of calls, crazy shit. So I'd only look Hawaii, and yeah, I think there should be points in this game.
All right, we move on now to the Camellia Bowl. This is a Christmas Day bowl game. I don't know if I've ever seen this, a bowl game on Christmas Day. It's been rare if it's happened, but we do have a bowl game on Christmas Day, Saturday, December 25th, and it's this one, the Camellia Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama, Ball State, Georgia State. Georgia State, 3.5-point favorites, 50 the total in this game. This is another one where I think the total might be a little bit light. At 50.5. I mean, did anyone see Georgia State's offense and down the stretch? They played a lot better, hanging 42 against Coastal, 28 against Arkansas State, 37 against Troy. I mean, I really like this quarterback that took over midseason for them, Darren Granger. He played pretty well on offense. They got the run game going. Of course, running the football is the biggest key to success for the Georgia State defense, and they should be able to do that here. Ball State, I mean, last 3 games of the year, 214 allowed on the ground, 5.1 yards per carry. This should be definitely a spot for Georgia State's offense to function. Ball State's offense kind of underachieved. I'm shocked they had these games where their offense looked as pedestrian as it did. They did have their explosive games too at times. Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, they put up 45 and 38, put up 29 against Northern Illinois. This offense, I think, has got, with the extra time to prepare and practice for the bowl game, I'd expect Drew Plitt leading this Ball State offense to have a better show of things. They can run the ball, they can throw it, and do enough here, I think, to maybe cause Georgia State's defense a little bit of trouble. Let's not forget, Troy's offense is kind of broken, and yeah, they shut them down, but they haven't faced, a ton of terrific, explosive offenses, this Georgia State team, since earlier in the year. I think Ball State can move the ball a little bit in this game. So rather than the side, this is another overlook for me with this matchup between Georgia State, Ball State. Connor, Camellia Bowl.
Yeah, this does seem a little light here. Georgia State had 3 good wins at the end of the year, with Coastal, Arkansas State, and Troy. It's light here. I think this is back and forth. As much as I like Georgia State at the end of the year, I think Ball State, I think this could be a close game. This is one you want to look at that I don't initially just bet on, that I want to look at, as the weeks go on here. Who's in, who's out, who's motivated, who's not. And if I see I still, can get like a 3.5 with Ball State, I might take it. So I'm with you. This is a low total, but it's probably set there for a reason. We'll see if it can get over.
All right, we move to Monday, December 27, where we have 2 bowl games, Quick Lane Bowl, Ford Field in Detroit, Western Michigan, and Nevada. We've got Nevada, 2.5-point favorites here in this game. It looks like, let me just make sure that's up to date there. I mean, we've seen actually a ton of, I think there's been a ton of movement in this game. Yeah, this opened Nevada 6-point favorites. It's down to 2.5 now, 63 the total. Jay Norvell's moving on. Jay Norvell is not going to, I believe, coach this bowl game. He's moving on. He's taken the Colorado State head coaching job. I was reading that earlier this morning. So again, we've got another coaching situation.
It must have been bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to leave.
And there must be some players like Carson Strong, among others, not playing in this game. That's got to be the explanation. How does this line go from 6 to 2.5 in the blink of an eye? It's nothing but Western Michigan money right now. And look, if this is indeed the case, and Jay Norvell has already moved on to coach Colorado State, and if Carson Strong was so much of what this team is this year, it's going to be hard to get to the window to back Nevada in this game. That's for sure. I don't want to use the word no-show in this game, but then you factor in too that Western Michigan's playing in their home state. Detroit, they'll have their fans there, the Broncos in this game. If that's all true, and we know Norvell's already moved on, and if it's true, too, that the whispers of Carson Strong not playing in this bowl game are also accurate, yeah, then I totally understand the Western Michigan money here in this game. It would be difficult to back the Wolfpack in this one. And Western Michigan, Ellaby, the quarterback, balanced offense, definitely could be some trouble for Nevada here, who are defensively improved this year. But, again, you're really worried about whether they're mentally checked in. Their coach is departing. Their star quarterback's maybe not going to play in this game. That could really be a damper on motivation from Nevada for this Quick Lane Bowl matchup. What do you think, Connor? Western Michigan, Nevada.
Yeah, I think Carson Strong needs to play in this one. At the end of the year, this total's about right. I mean, I'd say it might not get there, but I think there could be a lot of points in this game. Both teams can score, and both defenses aren't very good. I mean, they've had their moments, but both these defenses I don't think are very good as well. Yeah, this one is a wait and see on everything, especially with Strong playing. I think Western Michigan initially, you get the 6 there. But if this keeps dropping, I don't know. Wait and see for me. Because if this gets to a pick 'em, maybe I want UNR. I got to see their motivation. Still, I think UNR might be a better football team than Western Michigan, but maybe not, So wait and see here.
Yeah, again, this is coach out the door, maybe the quarterback not playing. Yeah.
The whole year was bad
Yeah.
for Reno there.
Just disappointing.
For UNR.
Yeah, disappointing a little bit considering what was expected. For them not to be even in the Mountain West Championship game, that was definitely a little bit of a disappointment for them. All right, the final game for today's show on on today's edition of Hitting the Books, the final bowl game, we'll talk about the Military Bowl, East Carolina and Boston College. We've got Boston College 3.5-point favorites here, 49.5 being the total in this game. This should be an interesting matchup here. This East Carolina team, we've liked to back them quite a bit. And look, you talk about situations that fire up a team, and maybe for a big bowl effort. Doesn't get much better than your quarterback, Phil Jurkovec, announcing earlier today that he's coming back for his senior season. And, I think that could be a little bit of a nice motivational inspiration here for Boston College in this game. Now, if their offense can figure it out, because I don't know what happened to their offense with Jurkovec in the last 2 games, but they struggled. He really hasn't been the same guy consistently since returning from that injury.
He hasn't looked right. Yeah,
there's no doubt. He hasn't been necessarily clicking. But again, we have a situation here, Connor, where we got bowl practices to get the offense right. You got him coming back for his senior year. I think that fires up the entire program here going into this bowl game. And I'd expect a much different and much better performance from the BC offense in this game for Jeff Hafley. And Jeff Hafley's the kind of coach I'd like to bet on at bowl time. But but the problem is I'd like to bet on East Carolina too, because I think they're excited for this, an opportunity to play a team from the ACC here, Boston College. We saw East Carolina. Their defense definitely got better as the season progressed, but, their offense with Holton Ahlers, of course, at quarterback, who has some good games, and then he can have some not so good games. You would think, again, with the extra time that this offense can get back on track. Let's not forget, Ahlers in the ECU offense, 29, 45, 30, and 38 points scored in 4 games before facing Cincinnati to end the year, where they got shut down. No shame in that, though, obviously, playing the Bearcats and that very good defense. This is an over potentially for me. I think the offense wants to go out there, put on a show with Jurkovec coming back next year. He's obviously now probably going to play in this bowl game as well. I think the total's a little light here. Holton Ahlers on the other side can score some points. It's not like BC's defense the last couple of weeks was all that great. Kind of disappointing considering what they were doing at times defensively earlier in the season. So right now the over's the play for me. As far as the side, I'd like to be betting on BC in their bowl game, and I'd like to be betting on East Carolina in their bowl game. So it's really tough to choose for me between these two sides. I might just look over the total. Connor, what do you think here? Military Bowl.
I think the total's indicative. Yeah, kind of like Jurkovec. Is this guy right? Is the extra time going to get off? Going to make him, back to the guy he was last year? Kind of. I thought they had their chances in the Cincinnati game. They blew it a few plays too. That game could have been a lot closer for East Carolina. But I love the games before that. The Memphis win. They beat Navy. I like East Carolina here. There's just right now, the way BC ended the year, I know we got weeks off. We're got to check everyone's in and out, like we talked about all show long with these bowl games. But to me, give me the points. I'll take a money line. I can't lay points here with Boston College at all. So I'll take the points and go money line a little bit here with East Carolina.
All right.
And the total is light, but I don't know if it could get over. This one's tricky. I think we could see points. This could be a slow, slugfest early. I don't know. But it is light at 49.
Yeah, I don't fault anyone. Like East Carolina as an underdog has been a pretty solid bet for the most part this year. And again, that's where they've been at their best from a point spread standpoint. And they're getting 3.5 here currently in this game against Boston College in the Military Bowl. All right, great stuff. That is the first half of the college football bowl slate that we previewed on this show. Next Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, we'll be back with you to talk the second half of the college football bowl slate, starting with the games on Tuesday, December 28th. And then we will go right on till the end, January 4th, including the 2 semifinal playoff games, all the New Year's Day bowl games. We'll have all those covered for you next Monday on the Hitting the Books football betting show. So make sure you join us again for that. Before we wrap up, Sunday NFL whip around, just briefly looking ahead to next Sunday's NFL action and things that I'm targeting from a betting standpoint. Early in the week right now, we've got obviously a very good one in the NFC East suddenly, Dallas and Washington. Washington starting to put some serious pressure on the suddenly slumping Dallas Cowboys, and I'm on Washington there as a home dog. I've already bet Washington in that game. I like the trajectory. I like the way the defense has played, believe it or not, lately for Washington in these last 2 games against Seattle and the win against the Raiders yesterday. I like Washington a little bit there in that game. We've got Buffalo and Tampa Bay. I'm already looking over the total in that game. I think you'll see points. The Tampa Bay team has suddenly been trending over. It stayed barely under yesterday, but that was an Atlanta offense that hasn't been on all cylinders at times. I think that'll be something different against the Bills. Chicago, I faded Chicago yesterday. I laid the points with Arizona on the road, and I'm laying it with Green. I don't lay double-digit favorites very often in the NFL, but I'm going to do that with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers next Sunday night against Chicago. I think it's a stick of pork in them, they're done situation with the Chicago Bears. I really believe that. Nagy's not going to be back after this year. You got to believe, even though they're saying, hey, he's our guy, he's our guy. I'd be shocked if he's back next year. So those are a couple of the games I'm looking at in terms of early week betting in the NFL. I kind of want to take Cincinnati, too, off a debacle against the Chargers. They've been good in bounce-back spots before. I'd lean Bengals a little bit against the 49ers as well. So those are just some early opinions for the NFL for next Sunday. Connor, do you have any early thoughts for next Sunday NFL?
Yeah, Green Bay in that game, they've just owned Chicago. Aaron Rodgers has just owned them, whether it's in Chicago or in Green Bay. They kicked their ass. By the way, Andy Dalton, that was pathetic. He lost that game. They moved the ball against Arizona. I think they could have covered that number. I mean, 4 picks. Too many
mistakes and turnovers.
4 picks.
And then
no, I mean, he didn't throw the. Yeah, they were all horrible. You know, one was in the beginning driving down on the other guy saying Arizona took it almost to the house, and a couple others just horrible, horrible. Andy Dalton. All right, let's get to these real quick. I'm looking at the Jets. I know I'm saying the Jets right now and the points here. I don't trust the Saints. Not laying almost a touchdown on the road. The Jets defense is pathetic. This could get over as well. We got a low total. It's already gone down a little bit to 43.5. I like the over San Fran, Cincinnati. Both these defenses haven't showed up at all. I think at 47, it's a decent number. And these teams, they get their ass whipped and they bounce back. It's like, what the hell is going on? The Bills do it all the time. It's like, what team's going to show up here? So I don't know if I could take Cincy. I lean that way in that game. I like Washington. Give me the football team that's getting 4 points at home. They're playing better. They won again. Raiders really blew it. Raiders had to win that game at home. Their schedule is horrible. Obviously they play the Chiefs this week, the Browns. It's horrible. Raiders are out. They're going to go 7-10. So yeah, I like Washington. That's about it early on. I agree with you a little bit on the Buffalo Tampa Bay over initially, but it's at 53. That's about it.
All right, good stuff.
My early look.
Detroit. I'm thinking of Detroit because Detroit's been a point spread machine since the bye week. Really ever since their bye week, they've been in every football game just about.
Hey, they scored, and I didn't think they could score. With Swift out, that was my only problem yesterday, and they did. So if they can move the freaking ball, give me the 8 points. If I know they can move it a little bit. Yeah.
But I also worry about the bad teams when they finally win their first game and then they just
let down.
No show and a letdown the next. That's the one. And Denver's still not an easy place to play. So, but I'm trying. We'll lean Detroit early in the week anyway. That's where I'm at with that game as of right now. Great stuff, Connor. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Hit the like button. Make sure you do that. It helps us out. We'll wrap up the show, say our goodbyes, and give some final thoughts in just a second. But first, messages from our sponsors. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke. Southtown 101. Manscaped, promo code PubSports, 20% off your purchase. Lawnmower 4.0 or any Manscaped product, get 20% off using the promo code PubSports. And MyBookie.ag, promo code PubSports. All the sports ongoing at once. No better time than now to sign up for an account. MyBookie.ag, Bitcoin accepted currency for your deposit as well. MyBookie.ag, promo code PubSports. All right, that's a wrap on this edition of Hitting the Books. Again, next Monday, we'll preview the second half of the college football bowl slate. Looking forward to that.
Can't
And
wait.
of course, the following Saturday, not this Saturday, there is no Saturday college show this Saturday, but the following Saturday, December 18, we'll have our big bowl extravaganza with me, Connor, DJ Big Boss, and Big Ragu. One final time, the Saturday college football kickoff show, December the 18th in a couple weeks. So join us for that at 10 a.m. Eastern time. All right, Conor Mac, final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Just shout out to the chat. We appreciate all you guys. The thumbs up, the likes, the bells, the whistles like I talk about. Retweet our shit. We appreciate it. All the donos too. Cheshire Cat, we appreciate the dono from earlier. And check out Babano later. NBA Pub Hub, 1 o'clock, and me and Max right after. Short college basketball card. We'll rip right through it real quick. I think there's like 10 games, 12 games. So check us out later. We appreciate you guys. And see you next Monday. I can't wait to go through the rest of the bowl games, Ian.
Yeah, these are the appetizers. We get to the good stuff.
Yes,
New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, the 2 semifinal games as well next Monday. We'll be looking forward to that for sure. That's when the good stuff really gets underway. And make sure you join Connor and Maxwell Smart after the NBA Pub Hub with me and the crew. There is a big Big Ten game tonight, Illinois, Iowa. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that one plays out. So basketball coming up later today, Pub Sports Radio, NBA and college basketball shows back to back. 4 p.m. Eastern starting then. So make sure you join us for that. For Conor Mac and Ian, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great week. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will see you again next Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And we'll do part 2 of our college football bowl betting preview right here on Pub Sports Radio.